everyone, it's Katie from UR Compt here with Justin Shank, the CEO and principal of Shank Marketing, which is a marketing and advertising solution specializing with casinos, hospitality, and entertainment. So welcome, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Happy to. Yeah.
Well, we did an interview.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, we did an interview with you back in early 2021 where you discussed a lot of points about operations-driven marketing approach. And I recently saw an article you wrote for Tribal Gaming and Hospitality called Keys to Engaging Locals and Reaching New Audiences. And it focused on digital and social media marketing. So I wanted to dive into some of those points with you. But before we get to that, for those that aren't familiar with you and your company, tell us a little bit about what Shank Marketing does.
Yeah, happy to. So Shank Marketing, we're essentially a managed resources company. We help with digital marketing, social media, digital advertising, website management, app management, pretty much anything in the digital sphere, along with some media buying and other types of creative content marketing, things like that. Our team is all made up of people who have a lot of experience with, copywriting, content, casinos, working in casinos, that sort of thing. And so at the end of the day, we're a managed resource. So, we help marketing teams at casinos and other businesses just, hone in on strategies on how to reach people, to hopefully visit the business. And, we look at everything through the lens of social media and digital marketing first, digital advertising. And then obviously we're evaluating some of the, more traditional advertising methods and things like that as well.
Well, how did you get started in that? And share a little bit about your experience within the casino industry, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So my background is I started working as a publicist for movie studios out of college. I fumbled around for a little while and then started doing that, working as a publicist. And eventually I fell into the gaming industry. While I was a publicist, things were new in social media, completely new. And we were trying to figure out how to leverage things like Facebook and Twitter and all those things for, getting people excited about movies. So I took that experience, and when I started working in gaming, it was still really kind of slow to adapt social media. People were very concerned about, people are just going to talk about losing money and, that sort of thing. They didn't realize that people really just like to celebrate their wins and celebrate the exciting things. And so, my experience going into gaming was basically, it was a blank slate. I could throw all kinds of crazy ideas to people about what we should be doing and what we could do with social media that would help to reach new audiences and do things in a slightly different way. And everybody kind of knows our industry can be somewhat slow to adapt depending on the size of the business or the revenue that's generating, things like that. And so a lot of times it's just having conversations about what can we do to make this an exciting place for people to come and visit. So that's kind of my experience, getting into gaming. I worked at the Swinomish Casino and Lodge, for a little around 7 years. Took that, and then I worked for a couple other companies and started this business after kind of jumping around a little bit and really getting a good experience globally, working on other casino properties and things like that. And then kind of saw that there was just kind of a gap that I could help to fill with this company, which is with my background and experience in social media and digital marketing. That there was a lot of properties that could use just some extra hands. There's not always a ton of people in the marketing department that have a ton of experience. That's changed a lot now. I mean, you're getting a lot of people coming out of college that have grown up with social media as the thing that they do. So that's changed quite a bit, but at the time when I started this, that there's still a need for additional hands to help with this stuff that doesn't always need to be in-house. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, or that people don't see on the front end. A lot of stuff that needs to be done to make sure things are working correctly on the back end, and that all the efforts that your internal team are making are resulting in visits to the property at the end of the day.
Definitely. Well, nice. And now you're writing articles to share some of that knowledge too. So let's get into it. Again, you recently wrote the article. It was called Keys to Engaging Locals and Reaching New Audiences. And in the article, you basically say that casino marketing teams are missing these untapped audiences and opportunities because they're so focused on their own internal player database most of the time. So why do you feel like that's the case with most casino marketing teams?
So I wouldn't. So I've noticed the trend over the past few years. I'll just say that, like, it may sound more extreme in the article, but the fact is, like, I've noticed this trend where I think what happened is we were really inundated with data and data-driven decision making, and using data for everything that we're doing in marketing, which I have nothing wrong. There's no problem with that. Please use your data for things. But what I have found is that we're so hyper focused on the database that we have on site that we're starting to kind of miss the idea of being creative and the creativity that can draw new attention to our business. Because a lot of times, the creatives out there are looked at like crazy people when we come to you with an idea that hasn't been done before, or isn't something that you know about. And usually, we're using this data to kind of back up the idea, or that's what we've been trained to do recently, by using all the analytics that we have for everything. But we're kind of missing the target, where it's like, I think this would be a good idea, and I need to get buy-in from the rest of my team in order to make this thing work. But there's no data to back it up because it hasn't been done before. And so I think there's this trend where we've been inundated with lots and lots of analytics and data, and we're just kind of slowly moving away from intuition and creativity. And so my intent behind that article was to really think about the things outside of your peripheral and outside of the database. One of the other things I've seen is that, yes, we want to have really good programs for our database. Our database is the lifeblood of any casino operation. It needs to be, it needs to be worked on, and it needs to be accurate, and we need to have that, taking steps to have clean data, and to target our players through email marketing campaigns, direct mail campaigns, direct messaging, and other types of campaigns that can be done for the database. But there's this untold audience out there that can be realized by using data, by looking at like our area, our local market, our outer market, looking at kind of like all of the data that we can find, and thinking like, well, there's a lot more people who aren't in our database than there are in our database that are active players. So how are we attracting people outside the database? Be it advertising campaigns, social media, obviously, is the biggest one for me to focus on. What's the content look like? Is that content going to be something that would attract a player to our property because they're interested now? We've captured their attention. Those are the types of things that I was kind of hoping to spark through that article.
Yeah. And one thing that your article made me think about is sometimes there's so much emphasis kind of on the 80-20 rule, or hitting 100% attendance at events. So, you've got player development cranking away to get the same VIPs through the door for those events, and marketing's blasting their email campaigns. But like you mentioned, they aren't maybe thinking more creatively about how to get these new players into their property. And one quote from your article is, many potential guests don't even know what you have to offer. And you kind of touched on a few already, but how do we reach new audiences that aren't in our database?
Yeah, I think there's been a huge push toward retail and amenities that our properties have on site. And so a really big piece of that is to highlight and emphasize kind of all of the things that you have outside of just the gaming, but not forgetting that gaming is our primary revenue and that there's a lot happening on our gaming floor all the time that we're also not really putting a lens on and highlighting. So it's kind of looking at everything that the property has to offer, and then kind of honing in on different types of campaigns that may attract other people that maybe don't know that you have this thing. There's a in brand marketing, and a lot of brand marketing, a lot of properties do a good job of talking about the property as a whole and creating this picture of the property as a whole, but not always conveying a message that's specific to the new restaurant that just opened, or the new golf course, or even just the new whatever facility that you've got on site. I mean, there's so many projects, construction projects that are happening. Floors being revamped, new games coming in. New games is a big one, obviously. Like, people love to see the new games, and beyond just seeing them, like what does it do? Like what do I need to know about this thing that's coming up? So yeah, highlighting the things that we have, I think, has been a big emphasis. We do that with a lot of our clients, where we're creating content around the new games that are hitting the floor, or the new restaurant, like I mentioned. There's been a lot of those coming up, and how we're actually incorporating that in our overall brand strategy.
I love that. And I feel like a lot of the upcoming generations that maybe are just now getting more of a entertainment expense that they can start spending in the casinos, they're paying attention to social media and what these brands are posting. And I've seen some larger casino brands that do this really well and have great success just by posting like the brand new cocktail that's like really cute and Instagram worthy. And but it seems like some of the mid-sized and smaller casinos can sometimes struggle with this. What do you think are some common mistakes that casino marketing makes when they're trying to expand their reach beyond their database and use social media, and how do they avoid these issues?
I think a big part of that is really just it's not necessarily mistakes being made. It's that it's putting a value or of importance on those things that aren't being highlighted. Like, what is the value of promoting this new restaurant that we just opened? Or is it a known brand, or is it something that is that is built in-house, and a new brand that we're developing ourselves, of the type of restaurant or amenity. And I think there's sometimes a lack of urgency around, like, well, this is a new brand, we're launching it ourselves, we want to make sure everybody knows that it's here, but we also need to we don't want to derail our normal advertising programs, or our standard kind of mix of things. And that's where some of that creativity can come in. And I mean, there's lots of properties doing very creative things, and I think like but I think there's room for improvement, kind of like when you look at it across the board, right? Like there's other areas where again, I don't think it's mistakes that people are making. I think it's more like, what can we do? Because it's really easy for me, for anybody that's in marketing, to just fall into, this is how we do things, or this seems like the right idea, without asking, okay, well, we've got a new food and beverage manager for this new restaurant that we're opening. Like, what do they think about our marketing program? What do they think would maybe help to highlight that? Or, within the marketing team, are we opening the lines of communication between our slots team and gaming floor people, to say like, oh, hey, this is really cool, we're getting a whole new bank of machines in, and they haven't been put in anywhere else in the state, or we're the first to get this kind of stuff, or we know that competitors have this and it's really greatly loved, so we need to make sure that we're highlighting that in our marketing. And those channels have to be open in order for those conversations to happen, and for the marketing team to be nimble and quick enough to get out and get the content they need to share that.
Yeah, and what you kind of mentioned just a little bit ago about how uh casinos, it's not really mistakes that they're making, but they might not be using some of their tools as effectively as they could, like for example, social media or some of their data that they're getting. In your opinion, or how would you advise casinos to use these tools more effectively?
I'd say just be open, be open to different perspectives on things. I mean, call in the opinions of, not only other people on your team, but your managed services teams and consultants that are there. What do they think? Is there something else that we can do? I think that just, asking for people's opinions, is okay. You can take it or leave it, but sometimes it's nice to just have another perspective. So, in my opinion, that stuff kind of like, that can go a long way, when you have somebody else that's coming in and, especially working in social media. If you don't have younger people working in social media, there can be a lack of understanding of what's happening on within the social media world, across all the different platforms that people are using now. That there's been obviously a lot of conversation around TikTok and things that are going on. And so sometimes the perspective of somebody on your team that may be relatively new, maybe they don't understand the gaming element as much, but they may understand something, within a different realm that you're not thinking of, or I'm not thinking of, right? And so I'm always really energized by talking to people who know stuff that I don't. I mean, because like I'm not one to say that I know everything. I have a very good understanding of what has worked for casinos and what does work for casinos in terms of social media and other digital advertising and digital efforts. But I'm not the catch-all for every single thing that's out there. There's so much stuff going on, and so I need that other perspective as well. And I think we all do.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking notes. And I like that you touched on in your article, one thing that you mentioned was the kind of social aspect of a casino, because it is more than just a gaming venue. And unless you share and remind people of that, that they're going to look at it differently. I think the majority of the Vegas market is a premier example of this, because a lot of people go to Vegas and they may not even be players, but they know about the restaurant that they want to try is at the Venetian, or the club they want to go to is at the Wynn, or the Cosmo has a cool pool. And but not everyone is visiting the properties, or not everyone visiting like your property is from out of town. So what
Yeah.
are some ways to make locals feel more connected, and why is that so important?
Great question. I think one thing is that like people, the local market, they're either going to your property because they love gaming, or they're not going there because they don't know what else you have, right? So if we can reach out to people and be a part of the community, I think there's a lot of casinos that do a great job of kind of being a part of the community and talking about the things that they do within the community, and not being afraid to say like, we're partnering with this company, or these, this local business is providing our bread, or things like that we're doing locally can make a big impact, I think, on just the perception of you in the local market. Obviously, like casinos, they they're not always just widely accepted everywhere, right? Like some people just don't like them being in their backyard or near them. But I mean, we have casinos now all over the country in every market, and so the big question, I think, is like, how are we working with the local community, and what can we do to be a good partner locally? And then putting a highlight on that kind of stuff. Like it's about partnerships, and it's about, kind of making the local people feel like this is, their local, entertainment destination, even, to just go out on a Friday night, like they should be there. Whether it's, a hardcore gamer or otherwise, we want to get people to come out and, experience our businesses, experience our properties. There's some companies that do a really good job of that. I think Mod Pizza, if you're familiar with that one, like I feel like they do a good job of that, where they come into local markets and they work with the local community to kind of highlight stuff that's going on locally. And they're a big company that has a big franchise that has businesses all over the place, but they do a seemingly good job of kind of like reaching out to the local community when they come in there to understand the community, like what are the nuances here, or what should we have available for people. And I think we can look at that kind of example in gaming and think, okay, well, what am I doing for our local people to make this a fun place for them to be? And that can be all kinds of programs, entertainment. It can be, what's going on in the sports bar, sports books. Are we focused on our local market, and do we know who our favorite teams are for within our player database or the local market and that kind of thing? And are we highlighting those events that are going on? So that kind of thing I think really helps go a long way.
Yes, definitely. And when you mentioned like the strategy that Mod Pizza does and how well they do that, and it may not be, and it crosses over really well with the casino industry. But one thing that I think maybe some casinos will kind of maybe consider when creating like strategies is how they balance these different interests of locals with their current players and with the out of town visitor market. So how would you recommend for these casinos marketers to balance these different things when creating and enacting on these strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of properties do a good job of kind of, this is our core. These are our players that we know we need to take good care of. They're usually hosted players, top tier players, things like that. I think we do a fairly good job of that across the board. There's and that's kind of like, how are we taking care of our players, right? That's the player development side. The marketing and advertising side outside of that should be like, okay, how are we attracting new players, or how are we attracting high level players from our competitor, or how are we reaching those local people that maybe don't come here as often or don't understand that we have a very large non-smoking area. If they don't like smoking and that's why they didn't come to the property, well, we have this thing for you. We have this great new sports book that's opened. We've got an awesome steakhouse or wine bar, or things that might attract them to just go there anyway, for something else. Obviously entertainment is a really big one. Entertainment attracts people from all different sectors, depending on what the event is or what you're scheduling. So that can do it. But just the stuff that you have, every single place that we have, or every amenity and every retail center that we have on site is a potential revenue source. So we just need to find ways to get people in to come and spend their wallet or share their wallet with us.
Definitely. And in your article, you also highlighted customer service towards the end, and you gave some great examples of content to showcase this. Can you walk through some of those for us?
Sure. So we find that like a lot of our local players and the local customers, they know the local employees. So they know people. They live in the community. They are participants in other things in the community. They might be on a softball team, or they may have kids that go to the same school together. They know each other. And so just highlighting team members, I think that's a big one. I think the other piece was like what did I say? I'm quoting here, showcasing moments that reflect our team's dedication to guest satisfaction. So like, what are some things that have led to happy customers, happy people? We've done stuff in the past where and this is just if our customers are our guests are willing to share, really. But if we know these things are happening, and we can talk to them about, hey, we'd love for you to share the story about how you guys met at our casino and got married and have lived, been married now for 25 years or whatever it is, right? Like there's all those stories out there of people who come to our property that, you know, if we can get them to share, then we can certainly showcase some of that that's happening. And then within our team, you know, like what are we doing to support our guests and provide a fun place for our guests to come? You know, so are there other examples that maybe our team members have that they can share or showcase within that same kind of idea? But, you know, both of those things I think work really well, whether it's like showcasing the guest experience or, you know, something fun that they've done to like, you know, sharing stuff from our employees and team members who can talk about, you know, fun moments with players or guests. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we're actually cutting it close to time, but do you have time for two more questions for me?
Yeah, totally. No
Okay.
problem.
So let's say that a casino does all this. How do they end up kind of measuring the success of these campaigns and new strategies?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, we get asked that all the time, right? So you know, there are usually a couple of different things. One is the engagement rate that your social media pages are having. So, you know, the two main metrics that I like to look at when it comes to social media are, you know, what are our engagement rate and what is the reach that we're getting on, you know, posts and stories and whatever type of content was getting put out there. In my opinion, reach and engagement are the two best ideas of like if something's working and you're actually reaching your audience or the intended audience that you put that kind of content out for. So that's one measure of success is like how well are this content performing online when we put it out there. The other would be, you know, what is happening in-house, what's happening, you know, with our foot traffic. Are we getting more people coming in the doors by putting an effort on, you know, into the social media area? Like we have a specific campaign that we can track, you know, maybe it's tied to a promotion or it's tied to an event or it's tied to some call to action that we can say, okay, well, the foot traffic increased and we were posting more frequently about this thing. We saw more engagement and more reach on that thing as well on social media. And we also saw more foot traffic come in the door. So we should be able to measure these things. We just have to have those, all of that stuff set up before the event or before the, you know, the campaign starts essentially. And then within the locals and trap versus travelers or local market versus, you know, visitors that are there maybe once every, you know, 3 months versus like come, you know, every weekend or every week, a couple of days a week or once a week or something like that. You know, when we look at our database, like, are we attracting new players? What's our new player count look like? Where are they coming from? You know, are we targeting them in a certain area? And they're actually showing up now because we're targeting a specific place or we're using a specific campaign to reach a different demographic. So like we can look at our database and say, oh, look, we are seeing a spike in this one area that we just started advertising in. We're also providing content that is maybe more appealing to them because of X, Y, and Z. And so we're able to kind of tie that stuff back to this seems like it's working. And at the end of the day, you know, that's what our, you know, CFOs, CEOs, that's what the GMs want to know. That's what, you know, the executive level folks want to know. Also, if you're a, you know, like a younger marketing person on a marketing team, like, you know, you have to get buy-in from everyone up the ladder essentially before you can get one of your program ideas off the ground. And so being able to show like, hey, this is how it worked, you know, is really good at the end of the day. And maybe that will open the door to being able to do some more stuff. Because there's, you know, there's all kinds of roadblocks in the way of like, you know, this is my idea. Let's just see if we can get this to work. So I think there's a, you know, there are ways to track, you know, new audiences. And we have one client where we did this and we were working with their database team on like we were able to identify through the database that we're getting more new player signups from this one specific area. So we said, okay, let's see if that increases even more by actually targeting that with, social media ads, digital ads and other types of advertising efforts. And we were, in fact, able to see that work. So we put a concerted effort. The rate jumped even from new player signups from that specific area, just as a result of some additional advertising campaigns and other things. So we saw that the market was kind of like coming to us for some reason, and it was newer to the database, and the level of increase was going up. And then we were able to kind of target it, and then we saw an even higher lift of people from that same area. So there's stuff that you can do to kind of test and control, or try some stuff out, see if it'll work.
100%. And you're so knowledgeable with social media. I have to ask, looking ahead, do you see different trends like short form videos, AI, and influencer marketing kind of fitting into some new casino strategies?
Absolutely. Yeah. We short form videos have been working extremely well. So obviously with TikTok, people are very familiar with it now. There's a lot of TikTok users. And then obviously the other platforms, YouTube included, have created some new areas for short form videos to be present, and highlighted. And so YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even, lots of different places that now you can, X, now you can start to put those videos up, and we're seeing really good engagement on them. People are finding content more frequently that may be kind of like something that they're sort of interested in some way, or something they've interacted with. So just kind of like trying to get those things built into the programming is really good. Also, like, there's some very creative ways that casinos are utilizing short form videos to highlight promotions, to highlight events. Behind the scenes stuff has been pretty cool on some clients that we work with, and what we've seen across the board. So a lot of that stuff is working very well. And then obviously, like, influencer marketing, I think there's a lot of benefit to using that in the right way. I think there are influencers out there that not only focus on gaming, but also there's retail, hospitality. There's basically an influencer or content creator for every sector of what you're doing. There's food stuff. There's everything, travel. So you can find these people. But it's all about building out the program. Having a budget for that, because influencers now, if you used to just be able to say, here's a hotel room, and you can still do that in some cases. I strongly suggest that every property have a policy of some sort that says, this is what we will give you. We don't care who you are. You're an influencer, or you claim to be. You have to have X number of followers in order for us to give you this, but here's what it is. Just create a package that is just across the board approved by your marketing team and executives that know that this is what we're doing. And then you can just go out and understand that this is a program that works, that it's a program that's available, and that we can test to see if it's working, to drive some additional views and content engagements and things like that on our own content. There's lots of different things that can be used for that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this has been so insightful. And for those that want to learn more about Shank Marketing or get in touch with you, where should they go?
They can check our website out, shankmarketing.com. They can find me on LinkedIn. You can find us on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect anytime. I'm happy to just talk about things. I love just chatting about ideas, especially the crazy ones, especially the I don't think anybody's doing this. What do you think? And I can just kind of, let's talk about it, because I would love to hear, fun ideas. And I love to see what people are doing to disrupt and kind of change the way that things work, versus just jumping onto trends all the time. I think trends are great. I think there's a place for them, but I also think it's great to be trendsetters. And I think that that is one of the things that, we certainly can do. And we just need to be able to allow our people with some wild ideas to just go with it and see what happens. Yeah.
I like that. Let's create some chaos.
Do it.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you again so much for taking the time. We'll have to do this again.
Yes. Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate it. Great talking with you.